I am back. Today's October 10th, 2023, a final 2023 Chicago Marathon update. So, yeah, nothing went as I would have possibly expected. Um, yeah, I, Friday I had another ortho laser appointment, which was unexpected. They kind of just like allowed me to come back, which was nice. And, you know, in the very beginning, they allowed me to choose one body part. And I'm like, oh, I don't know what to choose. My ankle's not feeling great. Both hips are not feeling great. Both hamstrings aren't feeling great. My right knee doesn't feel great. But because I had just gotten an MRI a couple of weeks, like it was less than 3 weeks ago, that said I had possibly a stress fracture in my femur, I was like, let's do the left hip. And, I've had a bunch of runs since that MRI, and I don't think I have a stress fracture, but that's just felt like that was the safest thing to work on. But on Friday, the tech, she asked me, how is everything feeling? I'm like, my hamstrings, they're bothering me. And so she actually did my hamstrings instead of my left hip. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is like so unexpected, and this is gonna be like a good thing for Sunday. And also, so let's see, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I took complete rest days, but I did go to the gym to use the sauna and actually the whirlpool and the pool. So I was kind of doing like a hot cold therapy type thing, where I would sit in the sauna for like 14 to 15 minutes or so, and then I would go into the whirlpool with, it's hot and it has all these jets and it's like massaging you, and then after that I could be in there for just a few minutes, and then I would go and stand in the pool. It's not ice cold, but it's a lot colder than the sauna or the whirlpool. So I would just rotate like that for like an hour. I would do that. Maybe actually there was one day when I did that for like an hour and a half. So no actual exercise, but I was doing that, and I felt like that was going to be really helpful. Um, another good thing was that I got a lot of sleep in the days before the race, and the night before I probably slept 4 or 5 hours, which for me is a lot. I typically don't. I barely sleep before a race, so. But all the same, I was definitely dreading the race, and it was like, I I told a friend, in the days leading up, I'm like, I just don't know. My confidence level is so low, and I'm just worried that if it doesn't go well on Sunday, that will be the end of it. Like I'll have my confidence will die, and it will just be like unresuscitatable, you know. So that was my fear, and the whole morning I was really dreading the race. But I've dreaded races before. I did Mountains to Beach in 2018, and I'm like, oh, I was like, this was like, I think 6 weeks after Boston. It was like a monsoon and horrible, and I wasn't even recovered from that. Like I felt like that day I had run 2 marathons back to back. I was so beat up from Boston 2018, and then 6 weeks later, I remember just getting off a shuttle bus with my sister, and I told her, I'm like, I do not want to run this. Like, I am dreading this race. And I wound up negative splitting the race, and I ran a 3:04. So, I didn't think that just because I was dreading it that it would turn out terribly. But, you know, I got my boyfriend dropped me off, and it was like around 6 o'clock in the morning. And then I had to walk a whole ways to get to the marathon start and the gear check. And just a word of advice to anyone who wants to run the Chicago Marathon: get there really, really early, because it took forever to get through security. And I've done this quite a few times since um, Boston 2013, when the bombs went off, and it kind of changed the security of all the major marathons, like kind of like forever. It changed it drastically. The whole system was changed drastically, the security. And even in the last couple of years, security didn't take that long, but for whatever reason, it took really long, like really long, and it didn't leave me a lot of time to get my gear check and do the porta potty and all that stuff. So I went straight to the gear check, which was a long walk away actually. And you also have to kind of figure out, like, oh, where's my gear check stuff? The last couple of times I ran in Chicago, I was in the American Development like area. Like I had the bib for the American Development, and we're so spoiled. You just like leave your bag at the tent, and it's right there, and it's right near the start, and it's just you have your own porta potties. It's really nice, but I wasn't in the American Development tent, not even by a long shot. So I had to walk really far, and actually I was part of the age group world championships, and they had a tent, but it was, I don't know why, but it was like way like it was behind the last corral. So the American Development is like by the start line, and the age group world championship tent was like as far away from the start as it could possibly be. I mean, it was like the last, so it didn't make sense to do that, to go there. They had a free breakfast, and I was excited about that, but there's no way I would have time. So I just did my regular gear check, and it was a cold, so it was like in the 40s Fahrenheit, and I shed a bunch of layers, and I kept like one layer on that I would donate to charity. I would shed and put in the donation bin, but there were clothes that I wanted to keep. So I was shedding all these layers, and I put it in my gear check, and I checked it in. And as soon as I checked it in, I wanted to see how much time I had, because I saw a sign saying that the corral for the deadline to get to my corral was like 7 a.m. So I'm like, oh, like I knew I was cutting it really close, and I thought it was past 7 o'clock. So I checked my watch, and the watch wasn't there. So I was like, shoot, this is an Apple Watch, like this is no small loss. So I actually, after checking it in, I see my bag on the other side of the wall, or whatever it is, and I just grab it. Like, I'm not supposed to do that, but I'm rummaging through. I'm looking through my long sleeves, like seeing if it's like my watch is like stuck in the sleeves, because I could see how it get pulled off. There's no, I don't know why Apple Watch doesn't just put a strap so that you can tuck the end of the band into the strap. I don't know why they don't put that there, but the watch was gone. And I went to where I had shed my layers, and it wasn't there either. I'm like, now I have to finish this race, because I just lost a watch, and I need to make it worth it, But the gun goes off, and right away, my body feels pretty shot. Like nothing seems to be working, and my body just wasn't really ready. I could tell from the beginning, but I kept going, and I was actually pushing, but people were passing me, so I knew I wasn't aware like of my paces at all, but people were passing me left, right, and center, and I was surprised, because I felt like I was pushing, but also my stomach felt really not good at all. Like, it felt pretty upset. So the first chance I saw porta potties, it was around the 5K mark. I went to it, and there's like a row of like 10, and none of them were available. I had to stand there for at least a minute for one to open, and when I did, I had to spend a lot of time in there. It was just really not good. And I don't know why, like, my stomach was so upset, but it was. And well, I'll get to this later. I think I have figured out what happened. So I walked off the course at around between like I saw the 4 mile marker, but I didn't see the fifth one. So somewhere past the fourth mile, I stopped, and I found a nice lady who lent me her phone, and she offered to let me use her bathroom because she lives close by. Thank you. You're awesome to this lady. And so my boyfriend was at the 12-mile mark, so I had to run like about a mile and a half. Not run, I started to walk, but then I started to run because it was like taking so long, and it was cold too. and he had warm clothes because he knew it was definitely possible I would walk off the course. So I would run in spurts, and there came to a point where there was an aid station and I couldn't get past. It was blocked off. And, I show my bib. I'm like, I had to walk off the course. My boyfriend's right there and I need to get to him. And she's like, oh, since you're a runner, you can just go. So, it's a whole stretch of like water, and I'm running and all these people are cheering for me. And I'm like, guys, the Africans just passed. You think I'm actually running that fast? But it felt good. It felt nice. I'm like, oh, this is what it feels like to be running like a professional with like nobody around and everyone cheering like a maniac for you. It feels kind of nice. So anyway, I got to my boyfriend, and surprisingly, my twin sister was there. So she was dealing with a calf issue, and she's insanely good. She ran a CIM last year in 303 with a bathroom stop, and she barely ran. Like, she was dealing with feet issues and stuff like that, and she does this all the time. She's like not quite healthy. She barely trains, and then she'll whip out like a 3-hour marathon. But I was surprised. I really thought she would finish. So we wound up booking it to the 26-mile spot, and we caught. Oh, I forgot to mention, as I was running towards my boyfriend, I turned my head and I see Sifan Hassan running. I had no idea she was running. So I saw her, I'm like, go Sifan! And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I had no idea she was running. And Ruth Chepengedich was with her. I didn't know that shortly after that Ruth would go ahead of her by 10 seconds. And then Sifan would catch up. But anyway, so we went to the 26-mile mark, and after only a few minutes, like, this is crazy because we just came from mile 12 where the fast runners were, and just a few minutes after getting to the 26-mile mark and taking this major shortcut, Kelvin Kiptum comes, and I knew he was running, but this was so incredible watching him, like, only a minute before he smashes the world record and of course the course record. But that was so special, and I got a little video of that. And then I saw Sifan Hassan finish, and I saw M. Sisson and Emma Bates and Galen Rupp, who I've seen him run, and I've never seen him sport such a major pain face in my life. He looked like he was gonna cry. I mean, I felt for him because I just know that kind of pain, and I know wanting to cry. But I was surprised because he's usually quite stoic, and he was in the pain cave galore. I mean, deep, deep, deep in the pain cave. But anyway, it was so freaking cool to see those guys run. And, I really thought that, that maybe I wouldn't want to run ever again after if I dropped out. But the opposite reaction wound up coming after seeing these amazing performances. And I'm like, and also thinking about Victoria Arlen, who I mentioned before. She was in a vegetative state for like literally several years, and she wound up in pretty short order after regaining like control of like half of her body, getting multiple gold medals in the Paralympics for swimming. And I'm thinking, if she can go from a vegetative state to being a gold medalist in the Paralympics, which has got to be really hard, and she has also broken the world record, surely I can get back to form. Surely, like, and better, because even when at my top form, I was doing plenty of things that could have been improved, so I just wound up being really excited. And driving home, I was actually dead tired because I had been up since like 4 something in the morning. And, I'm like, I am just going to go home and crawl into bed and go to sleep. And my boyfriend went out for a run because he was pumped from what we saw. And for whatever reason, I decided to make muffins. I'm kind of obsessed with spice cake muffins. So I decided to make a batch. Well, I know why, because I finished them and there were no more, and I really felt like I needed to have a ready supply. So as I was icing my spice cake muffins, I'm watching some footage of Chicago, and I get really excited. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna take a nap. I'm gonna go to the gym. And I went to the gym. But you know what? I started an elliptical and my knee actually hurt, so I couldn't even use the elliptical. But I wound up going on the bike. And get this, I biked for 2 hours while watching the Chicago Marathon footage. And some of that stuff I watched just over and over again. There's like one that was like 12 minutes, and it was like mostly of Kelvin Kiptum running. And I just couldn't keep my eyes off. And I never got tired of watching that. It was just so amazing. And what really, you know what, Kelvin Kiptum, oh man, he's just so adorable. Um, you know, I'm sure you've seen it, but you know, he shortly after I saw him pass at 26 miles, you know, he's in the home stretch, and he's blowing kisses and doing all these crazy things, and he flies through the you know, he breaks the tape, he flies through the finish, and he basically leaps in the arms of Kerry Pinkowski. He's the race director of Chicago, and you know, I don't know if you ever watched like The Bachelor or Bachelorette, but usually at least once in every episode, the girl, like, you know, she jumps into the she kind of jogs and then like flies into and jumps into the arms of the guy into a hug, and her legs go up and wraps around the guy, you know. I'm pretty sure the producers tell the girl to do that, because who does that in real life? How many times have you seen that happen in real life? Like never, right? Like, well, anyway, I digress. So Kelvin Kiptum does that flying leap into Kerry Pinkowski's arms. His legs don't quite wrap around him, but they're suspended. And I just love that he was just so like joyful and wasn't afraid to like show it. You know, he it was just there, and it's like he was just so swept up in emotion, and he trusted that Kerry Pinkowski would hold him up, but he only really held him for like a second, and then Kelvin Kiptum does like what like a lot of these kids do. They like the body just goes limp, like when they're carried, and then they don't want to be carried anymore. I don't know if he didn't want to be carried anymore, but I think he was just so overcome with emotion that his body just goes limp, and he's like on the ground, and his arms are still around Kerry, and it looks like he's exhausted, but I think he was just so overcome with emotion. And then he kind of pops up, and he runs like back towards the grandstands where people were watching. By the way, a lot of the grandstands were empty, and I'm sad about that. That you know, the race should make sure that they're full for the sake of heightening the experience for the finishers, you know. But anyway, he got all this pop back, and he's joyful, he's running, and he does that flying leap back into the arms of another random white dude who, not random, but some guy who worked for the race. You know, I don't think that they're close. He's just there, you know, and I mean, I think they know each other. It's just that they're not so close that like it's necessarily appropriate to like fly into their arms with their legs like hang up in the air, you know. But he did that, which you know, I fantasize about him doing that to me. I just would love to see Kelvin Kiptum running towards me. And Kelvin, if you know, I know you're not seeing this, but if there's ever an opportunity, I promise I'll hold you up. Fly into my arms, raise your legs, and I will hold you up. I'm tiny, but I'm pretty strong. So that is an open invitation to you, Kelvin. You know, that would make my life. Just do it, okay? So I love him. I love Sifan Hassan. I saw a bunch of posts and pre-race interviews of her, and she just talks about how just very curious she is, you know. I don't think she's even attached to like getting medals or world records or anything like that. Like she said plenty of things that makes it seem like she genuinely doesn't necessarily care about those accolades. Like she's just genuinely curious about what she's capable of doing, and she likes to keep challenging herself. That's why she moved to the marathon, and I think she said that she wants to move to the ultra like trail runs, which is so cool. Like I'm just blown away by her longevity and all the like Shalane and Mary Katani and Des Linden, who also broke the American record for Masters. I mean, there's so many records that were broken on Sunday. Both wheelchair racers, both male and female winners. Des Linden. I just saw this morning that the winners of the 75 to 79 age group. I mean, it's bonkers. The woman, Jeannie Rice, she is from Ohio. She's over 75. She ran a 334 or 333, and she thought she'd run like 5 minutes faster. And then the guy, Gene Dykes, I forgot. Sorry. But he did a 317, and he's over 75 years old. Oh, so I got time. I'm not in my 70s, so. Although I'm closer to being 70 than I am to 20, whatever. I just am so excited and inspired, and I don't know what my next steps are. So I just need to figure out how to get it together, to fix all the issues. And I think I know what happened with my GI issues. So I mentioned some weeks ago I've been taking Glynac because it's supposed to be good for like longevity or something. So NAC and glycine. And I saw or heard in a podcast or something that you're supposed to take them 1-to-1. So this is a scoop for glycine. You see that? It's pretty small. And then this is the scoop for NAC. It's bigger. See, it's quite a difference, right? So I put in extra scoops of glycine to try to get it 1-to-1. I really should have just used the same scooper, but I didn't. So I did that like the day before the race and the morning of the race. I just wanted to get every edge I could. And I found out yesterday, yesterday. Both glycine and NAC, like a possible side effect is diarrhea. Nausea, vomiting. I didn't get the nausea or vomiting, but I did get the other one. Sorry, TMI. And yeah, my stomach was very upset. Like, not upset, but it was like gurgling, and then, the diarrhea. So note to self, don't do that again. I won't do that again. Okay. And another thing. So after we saw the runners and we left 26, my sister and I had to get our gear. So I went, we passed by the stand for information, and these women were up high. And I asked, do you have a lost and found? I lost my Apple Watch. She's like, no, we don't, but you can check the gear check and see if anyone turned anything in. I'm like, okay. 20 steps behind her, there's a lost and found. She just wasn't aware, I guess. So I asked them, the people in the gear in that lost and found tent, I'm like, did anyone turn in an Apple Watch? And the booth looks like empty. There's like a few people in there, and there's like, I don't see anything. Like, there's a couple tables, and a guy walks to the back. He opens like this little like Tupperware thing. It's like white. He looks in, he comes back, and he has a watch. He's like, is this it? And like everyone wears an Apple Watch. So I'm like, I don't know. So I put in my code, and then the face came up, and I freaking got my watch back. Like, what are the chances? There's like 47,000 runners. This is in the city of Chicago, in Grant Park. And I got my watch back. I jumped for joy. This was a miracle. A miracle. It turned out to be a really good day. And maybe I didn't get the race I wanted, but my body's just not ready yet. It's just not ready yet. But just like the knees over toes guy, I feel like maybe there's a purpose behind this pain, and that I'll bounce back stronger than ever. In case you're not familiar, he was like a dedicated basketball player when he was like in high school. And then he developed chronic knee pain at a young age, and it like really set him back, and he went through a huge level of frustration. And I think he even had surgery, at least one, I think, on his knees. Um, but he wound up figuring out a way to rehab his knee and actually be better than before. He could do like an ass to grass squat and dunk a basketball from that position, a deep squat, to dumping a basketball. And he couldn't even dunk a basketball when he was in high school, and now he can from a very deep squat. So he's actually better than ever. And I'm thinking, dealing with all this stuff, and maybe I can figure out a way and be stronger than ever, just like the knees over toes guy, and hopefully I'll help other people um, address their issues too, and maybe avoid a lot of the pain and frustration that I've endured. Um, the last almost 3 years has been very frustrating for me, and it all started with the pinched nerve in my back. Oh, and I forgot to mention, for I don't know why, but I had pain like here in my low back on the left side during the race, and I didn't feel it while walking, but I did feel it as soon as I started running, and it kind of created a hitch in my stride, just like my pinched nerve. That was major. So there were a couple times where my right foot would kind of freeze in the air, and then I'd have to like unlock it. So I don't know what happened there. And then yesterday morning, Monday, I woke up and I had that same soreness here, but then by the end of the day, it was gone. So who knows what happened there. But anyway, yeah, I think now I feel like more than ever just determined and pumped, and I genuinely think I can get back and better. I shouldn't say better, just stronger than ever. So I just need to keep working at it, and it'll be very satisfying and joyful when that time comes where I've kind of cracked the code and run another PB or PR. I do think that day will come, and I'm really hell bent on making that happen. So wow, this is by far my longest video, but hopefully you got something out of it. Oh, so unexpected. Um, but yeah, I hope you had a wonderful week, and I'm not even sure when my next video will come, but um, we'll see what the next goal is, and if I have any insights to offer, then I'll be back and we'll be sure to share them. So that's all. I hope you're well, and until next time, take care.